Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable. Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. We have a really good show for you today. We've done a lot of shows about multiple sclerosis and diet, and today we're going to talk about a study that actually shows specific microbes and the things that they produce that are hurting us, hurting our nervous system, our neurotoxins, and this is fascinating. Later in the show, we're going to talk about how you can reverse sun damage. You know, I love the sun. And I'm never going to stay out of the sun. I don't care what my dermatologist says. But there are things that you can do to actually reverse sun damage. And one of those things is the blue copper peptide, GHKCU. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. But before anything else, we have to thank our title sponsor, and that's Legendary Foods. If you haven't tried the Tasty Pastry, you are missing out big time. The Tasty Pastry started out to be a healthy Pop-Tart. And now it tastes better than the Pop-Tart, and you really will think you're eating real cake. Less than 1 gram of sugar, 20 grams of high-quality protein, 4 to 5 net carbs if you're a net carb person, maybe you're keto or low carb. And the flavors are so good, you will have to fight your children over them. And kids do not eat healthy things just because they're healthy. They're not like adults where we have a dietary template and so if it doesn't taste great, it's okay, I'm staying in my dietary lane, because the Tasty Pastry tastes amazing. Send them to school with them in their lunchbox. They will thank you. Hey mom, hey dad, can I have more? Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off. While you're there, look around. They also have some amazing nut butters, also with no sugar. They also have a variety of seasoned almonds, all great stuff. So check them out. Now, without further delay, my guest today is Dr. Patricia Kosacha, and she is with the City University of New York school system, which I am an alumni of. Thank you very much. And she is here to talk about her recent study. Welcome to the show, Dr. Kosacha.
Thank you for inviting me. Okay.
So, this is exciting. You know, you are a neuroscientist by trade, right? That's what you are, a neurologist.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And you said something off the air that I want to share to kind of set the table here. How exciting it is to be a neurologist and talking about diet. Tell me why that is.
I think that if you look in general, patients, after they receive a diagnosis, they feel devastated. And there is a sense of being unable to be in charge of your own life, right? So you want to do something about it. You want to be empowered. And you want to know if what you are eating, what you are doing, what are your habits are going to affect. Is there anything in your own control that you can do in order to change that? And so I really think that this becomes critical to try to understand a number of healthy behavior that can be promoted. I mean, many years ago, we were just saying, do not smoke, right? Do not drink too much alcohol, but you can eat in moderation a little bit of everything. And there was also this idea of protecting from the sun completely, which led to this overuse of sunscreens. And now we are a little bit revising some of these guidelines. We are saying diet, it's important to really understand how diet affects the organism. It's important to understand how the studies are made. It's important, vitamin D is critical for our own health. And so it's suggested to have at least 15 minutes of exposure per day. And so in this sense, I just think that by providing, I work with multiple sclerosis patients, as you mentioned. And so by providing to the Multiple Sclerosis Society a number of guidelines, scientists have come together and trying to review for patients all the evidence that's currently available so that they can go online and really check and make decisions for themselves.
Because patients, by and large, don't feel empowered. They feel at the mercy of. The doctor says, take this medication. This is your prognosis, boom, boom, boom. And they feel like that's it. There's nothing else. But now what you're saying is very fascinating, because we're seeing more and more of this, that through diet, lots of amazing things can be done, and the patient has control over their diet.
And I think it's overall, it's a life intervention, a lifestyle intervention, if you think. Sleep, for instance, and relaxation, de-stressing is quite important. And right now, we are just beginning to study the effect of meditation and yoga, for instance, as a stress release, rather than popping a pill, right? Which would be very different. So there are a number of techniques and a number of lifestyle interventions that could be beneficial for patients, which include diet, stress reduction technique, and exercises.
Okay, so now let's talk about this study.
Yes.
Why this study? What work had been done before? Perhaps you were involved, or colleagues, that required this study to be done?
Okay, so we and others published around 2014 the fact that if you look in the cerebrospinal fluid, the fluid that bathes the spinal cord and the brain, if we look at what reagent, what substances were present in the cerebrospinal fluid, we identified some bad fats that are called ceramides. And there were similar bad fats that you can also detect in patients with Alzheimer's, for instance. And so that study led us to think that there was something in the cerebrospinal fluid where the brain is bathed that was creating damage. And what's interesting is that if you look at magnetic resonance of patients, many times the damage occurs on the outside in the areas that are in touch with this fluid. So from there, we were very interested in fats at that time. Myelin, which is the substance that gets destroyed in multiple sclerosis, is a fatty substance. And so we thought that the reason why we found so much fat in bad fat, let's call it, in the cerebrospinal fluid was because this myelin was destroyed. But then later, with a student also, we identified that the same bad fat that we have found in the 2014 study was also present in the plasma, so in the blood of multiple sclerosis patients who we followed over time. And that study was quite interesting because we were able to follow women, same age, around 28 at start when they were diagnosed. And some had a high BMI, some had a low BMI, which we correlated with the type of diet. And we noticed that the difference in this population was a difference in the amount of what we call bad fats. And bad fats are not just saturated, are saturated in part oils, but also some of the oil that lead to the formation of these neurotoxic fats. For instance, palm oil. And palm oil is one of the very deleterious agents that can be used to create ceramides. And ceramide, specifically some of those ceramides, are the ones that we found accumulating in those people who were eating a special diet rich in fat. When we follow those people over time, we notice that the ones with the high BMI and the bad diet were also the ones that had the clinical symptoms much worse than the other one in a healthy diet. And in that case, the healthy diet was low fat and in general, kind of a Mediterranean diet. So from here until now, all the studies that we were done were about fat. What type of fat were present? We were looking at cholesterol, triglycerides in the blood, and then this special one, the ceramides, ceramide in the cerebrospinal fluid. But then there is all this data that, again, we and others had published on gut dysbiosis. So there are all these bacteria in the gut that produce short-chain fatty acid, but they also produce a lot of other substances. So we started this other study looking at patients that were either untreated or treated with a drug that it's currently used for multiple sclerosis. It's called Tecfidera. And this drug we had shown reduces or rearranges, reshapes the gut microbiota of patients more than other types of drugs. So the studies that how did we arrive to this point of just then saying, well, what happens?
Okay, I have some questions. So first of all, the blood-brain barrier has become a word used by many people in common households because there is lots of promotion of this theory that having a leaky blood-brain barrier is very common today. Why is it common today and not 500 years ago? I don't know. But is the presence of these ceramides in the cerebral spinal fluid a result of a leaky blood-brain barrier, or are they getting in there some other way? Because they're in the blood too.
Yes. So in multiple sclerosis, one of the signs that we have, the way the immune system attacks the brain is because there is a leakage in the blood-brain barrier. And so this is a way that substances can pass more freely from the blood into the parenchyma. And so there is also the possibility, though, as I mentioned before, that there is destruction occurring locally. And so then you have a mixture of those two. And so in terms of fat, we cannot distinguish between what was produced by degradation and what was coming from the blood because of diet. We could just measure the relative abundance and determine if there was a relative abundance in one case versus the other. And in terms of the study, though, this specific study, I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that we work at the Advanced Science Research Center of CUNY, and we are, let's say, the neurobiological component. But then we work with two clinical groups. One group is Dr. Keith Edwards at the Upstate Multiple Sclerosis Center in Latham, New York. And the other group is Dr. Fred Lablin and his team at Mount Sinai in New York City.
So, I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, go. Go
ahead, please.
So the blood-brain barrier has never been explained to me. I imagine it to be this balloon that the brain is in. And it says, no, you can't come in. Yeah, you can come in. What is the blood-brain barrier, and can it be repaired once it has a leak?
So the blood-brain barrier, imagine that you have the blood vessels, and then there are other feet of other cells called astrocytes that are blocking, and that they form their tight junction, so they're very close with each other. And then there are substances and compounds that create gaps in this junction, so that from the blood they can pass. So understanding, and there are a lot of groups that are trying to understand these junctions, right? How to repair this junction and how to create this transport. So several groups are working on the specific components that are responsible for either opening or tightening it.
So we have this same phenomenon in the gut, right? So we talk about leaky gut. Leaky gut is when the junctions are no longer tight.
Correct.
And things that you don't want to end up in your blood should stay in your digestive tract until it's eliminated, get into the blood. Could it be the junctions in the gut and the junctions in the brain share some similarities?
I think that there are some similarities, but there are also enough differences. Okay. Because there is a lot of cellular specificity and a lot of specific chemical pathway that render the two systems different.
Okay.
For us, the interesting part was that many times, as we were mentioning, the leaky gut is referred to the fact that you have the bacteria lining the intestine, and then you have the immune cells around the gut. And if you have leaky barrier, there is an easier communication between the immune system and the bacteria. And this is what has been detected in many cases of what we call autoimmune disorders, or where there is gut dysbiosis. The immune system gets activated, and then you can detect this kind of alteration in a number of conditions where the immune system starts attacking itself. But for us, what was interesting is to try to understand, do the bacteria only affect the immune system locally, and then the damage to the brain is done by the immune cells? Or is there something else? And actually, to be honest, Carl, we were surprised when we identified this, right? Because we initially we had selected healthy subjects and subjects with multiple sclerosis, right? And you can take the blood from these two patients. And this kind of experimental design is called, case control, in the sense that you have your case subject and control. And we noticed that there were differences in the plasma, right, in the blood. But this was not extremely surprising. There have been several reports about that. So then what was important for us was to study within the same subjects what happens over time. And I think that this is something extremely important, and it is a difference between what we call cross-sectional studies, when we compare group A and group B at one time point, or if you take one person and you test this person over time. This is very, very important, because if you have 100 people, let's say you and I could have very different bacteria, right?
Right.
And so if we are exposed to the same treatment or to the same diet, we may have a very different response, right?
Right.
And so it's difficult when you pull all the data together in the cross-sectional study. There is a lot of noise when you evaluate the results, because there is a lot of inter-individual variability. So a way to really address this in a personalized fashion is to conduct what we call longitudinal study, where you meet the individual or the patient, you take the blood and the cerebrospinal fluid at this time, and then you follow over time.
The long period of time, right?
So that you can really say, in this subject, what happens? And this is basically how we define this study. We took the cerebrospinal fluid from patients. And first we did what we call a functional study. We take the cerebrospinal fluid and we put it in a dish with neurons from mice or from rats. And the cerebrospinal fluid, we noticed, could kill these neurons, right? So this is what we call a xenogenic functional study. So at time 0, when we recruit the patient, we take the cerebrospinal fluid, we put in this dish, the neurons are dead. That would means that there is something toxic in the cerebrospinal fluid. But now if you give a treatment to patient that reduces a lot of this gut microbiota, and you test the toxicity of the cerebrospinal fluid 6 months later, after 6 months of therapy, you notice that there is less neuronal death. Then you can say this treatment from the same patient, the only difference was these 6 months of treatment. There is something that now is no longer toxic, but the rest of the components presumably are the same.
Interesting.
And that's why then we can compare before and after what happened, which components were decreased. And if you do this in a sufficient number of patients, this is how we identify that there are some metabolites, some of these substances that are produced that were different. At the beginning, we didn't even know that they were bacterial or if we were making with our own body.
Right.
But then eventually we realized that they are only bacterial substances that were different between the two.
That's amazing. Now bacteria in the gut have different names. Excuse me. I know that. I think it's called phyla. I'm not sure. Or maybe I'm wrong. But there are firmicutes and there are bacteroidetes. And we've talked about studies on the show over the years that show that one tends to be found in very lean people in a greater abundance, and one is found in obese people in a greater abundance.
Yes.
Did you categorize these bacteria once you discovered what they were doing?
So no, because that was part of a different study. So in multiple sclerosis, there have been several studies, including ours. There is a very large international consortium, which is called the Multiple Sclerosis Microbiome International Consortium, which includes groups from all over the world. From San Francisco is the leading center. We participated, and then there is in South America, in Europe, in Australia. And that there has been a quite interesting classification about the type of bacteria that are affected. The studies that from this specific study, the type of metabolites that we identified appear to be linked to the group of Clostridium. And so there are different types also of Clostridiales. And so these are some. However, I need to say something that's very important. It's getting unclear to have a true link, one bug to one metabolite.
Mm-hmm.
And this is very important in the sense that going back to this idea of individual differences, what's important is to have a society of bacteria that makes good metabolites or a society of bacteria that makes bad metabolites.
Right.
And not always it's clear. So I think we need to have more studies to really pinpoint these bad neurotoxic metabolites lead or are produced to those bacteria. We don't have clear one-to-one yet.
Women are exposed to ceramides in cosmetics. Is there any thought to the fact that women put cosmetics on their face and the ceramides could be absorbed right into the skin?
So it depends on the type of the ceramides. There are ceramides that are helpful and ceramides that are not extremely helpful. But it would not be the first time that cosmetics contain potential toxins, right? I mean, also there is a lot that's done in terms of endocrine disruptors like phthalates that are present in many creams and that they may affect on babies if pregnant mothers would wear them. So I think that there is a lot that we are learning, and there is a big initiative that right now the NIH, the National Institute of Health, is starting, and is precisely to understand the role of environmental toxicants on the nervous system. And this is actually something that we are very interested at the SRC, is to understand how the environment, what we do, what we breathe, what we put on our face, is what kind of effect does it have on the central nervous system.
So
there is
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, there is also what you were mentioning before about the blood-brain barrier.
Yes.
There is speculation also regarding, for instance, nanoparticles that are present in many substances, whether or not they could contribute to some of the alteration of the blood-brain barrier.
And some of those nanoparticles are found in sunscreen, as you were mentioning before that we put sunscreen on. A lot of them are metals. They're different types of metals, titanium and stuff like that. They get right into the bloodstream. So I know I'm getting ready to do a show in a week or two with a scientist who wrote a paper that postulates that that during the 60s and 70s, when we were using leaded gas, the IQ of young children dropped dramatically during that period. And then when we got away from leaded gas, it restored. And so there are so many things that we do to ourselves in this modern world that actually erode our health. It's just amazing. So you in your study, you discovered, you know what, we have to take a break. I want to take this break. And when I come back, I want to talk about the actual metabolites. Two of them were sulfated, I think, that were found to be bad actors in your study. Can we talk about that when we come back from the break?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so sit tight. We'll be right back with more of Superhuman Radio. Stay tuned. Plant medicine has become all the rage for mental optimization. Now there's an ancient plant medicine rapidly growing in popularity that experts believe might just be the alcohol of the future. It's called True Kava. Kava is a natural food-grade elixir that has been used for over 3,000 years by South Pacific Islanders as safe, non-addictive alternative to drugs and alcohol. By naturally boosting the brain's main feel-good chemicals, dopamine, serotonin, and GABA, Kava provides you with both increased relaxation and mental clarity at the same time. True Kava is a new form of stabilized full-spectrum traditional Kava that is third-party lab tested for quality and safety. Go to shrnetwork.biz/True Kava, and that's TRUKAVA, all one word, and use code SHR for 25% off today. More than 240 million Americans take supplements daily in pill form, but poor nutrient absorption means the promised results are rarely achieved. Healthy Cell uses a clinically proven patent-pending gel delivery system that increases absorption by 165% over pill form. Go to shrnetwork.biz/healthycell, that's HEALTHYCELL today, and use the code SHR to save 20% off your purchase of Healthy Cell supplements. If you've listened to Superhuman Radio for any length of time, you know I'm a big proponent of peptides. One of my favorites is GHKCU, the blue copper peptide. It has the ability to repair and regenerate more youthful expression of skin cells, reversing the signs of aging. Restore Cell's Stem Cell Awakening Serum, along with their other products, contains potent formulations of blue copper peptides and only the highest quality organic ingredients. Superhuman Radio listeners can now save 25% site-wide. Go to shrnetwork.biz/blue and use the code SHR25. Remodel your skin today. C60, also known as Buckminster fullerene, is the most powerful, most versatile antioxidant in the world. It's been shown in studies to double the lifespan of rodents. We all know the importance of taking antioxidants to slow aging, reduce inflammation, and improve mitochondrial function and energy production. But there are literally hundreds of antioxidants that would cost you thousands of dollars to take every day. I take one. I take C60 from C360 Health. Revive and Rejuvenate are two blends that harness the power of C60. Don't waste another minute. Go to shrnetwork.biz/revive and use the code SHR for 15% off and free shipping inside the United States today. Have you been struggling to achieve results in the gym? Trouble sleeping through the night? Overwhelmed with stress or anxiety? Look no further than Infiniwell supplements. They have designed products to address specific needs like muscle growth, hormone balance, sleep, and anxiety from the first use. Infiniwell helps you live well. Go to shrnetwork.biz/bewell, that's BEWELL, and use code SHR20 and start living well today. Most people have heard of phytoestrogens, but did you know there are beneficial phytoandrogens? The top source of these is pine pollen. It even contains trace amounts of testosterone and DHEA. If you're looking for a 100% natural testosterone booster, this is worth trying. Lots of men love it, and it even works for women. Lost Empire Herbs offers the highest quality wild harvested, non-irradiated pine pollen backed by a 365-day money-back guarantee. It works for you, or you don't have to pay for it with nothing to send back. Go to shrnetwork.biz/lost empire. Use code SHR. Get 15% off your order today.
Spit that out right now. This is the Superhuman Channel.
Welcome back. We're talking with Dr. Patricia Kosacha, and we're talking about your gut and neurological disorders. You know, I'm very sad to say that this information comes late. I lost my sister Valerie almost 10 years ago, 11 years ago. She was misdiagnosed with Parkinson's disease. She had some sort of neurological disease. We thought it was demyelination, but she just couldn't move anymore after a while. She couldn't think right, and she just faded away. And it probably was from her diet. I hate to say this, you know, I hate to say that, oh, yeah, because nobody wants to go, oh, right, I killed myself or I made myself sick. This information is so valuable because you can change your diet now. You can change these things now. Pay attention. Pay attention. So there were metabolites that you discovered in your research, right?
Yes. First of all, I'm so sorry to hear about your sister. And Carl, however, one important thing we need to consider is that it's important to consider that in general, we have a genetic makeup and an environmental component, right? This is becoming, so it's not only, I think only diet by itself is not sufficient to induce a disease, I would say. Oftentimes, disease are the result of a combination of multiple factors. This is why they're called multifactorial, because there is a genetic predisposition that you can modify with your lifestyle changes.
Epigenetic.
Yes, and that's what we work on.
You have control on epigenetic expression and effects. You know, I always like to say that geneticists would, if I go in the ocean and I take a deep breath and I drown, the geneticist would say, well, he doesn't have the proper genetics to breathe water. But I don't have to breathe water. I just stay out of the water, and that's how I stop from dying in the ocean. So you're right. There are genetic predispositions and polymorphisms, and they vary by family. So brothers and sisters don't necessarily have the same thing. However, once you discover, every time I eat that, I feel horrible. Stop eating it. We have commercials. Larry the Cable Guy. Hey, when the food you love doesn't love you, take Nexium. No, when the food you love doesn't love you, don't eat it. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But these metabolites that you discovered, talk about them.
Okay, so I think what's interesting and is that we identified 3 major metabolites that were related to this, and they are called paracresol sulfate, I think it was indoxyl sulfate, and phenylacetylglutamine. Now, what was very interesting for us, first of all, our study was, every time you do a study, you're doing what's called a discovery cohort, which is the cohort on which you do the first discovery, and then it needs to be validated, and that's called a validation cohort. And so our study had these 2 components. Typically, the validation cohort should be recruited at a different center just to make sure that it's different than the initial cohort. And we did detect the same type of metabolites in these 2 different cohorts. Recently, however, has been also published there is a larger study from 3 additional groups, a group at Johns Hopkins, UCSF in San Francisco, and Wayne State, on a larger population. In that case, was on more than 600 patients with multiple sclerosis and 300 control. And guess what? They identified the same metabolites.
Wow.
So becoming critical, it's not, a sporadic observation. This is something that you have in 5 centers, we are getting the same results. And also they were able to identify, these are products of amino acid metabolism. Most specifically, 2 amino acids, we both identify the same 2 amino acids, tyrosine and tryptophan. Now, if you think, many times we think of tryptophan gets converted into 5-hydroxytryptamine. Serotonin is good for you. It makes you sleep. And and if you think of tyrosine, you think of the precursor of dopamine. And so it's also good for you. But if you look at the metabolism, it's really, really complex. And right now there's a postdoc in my group, Sarah Sternbach, who is trying to understand exactly this, right? What is that makes some bacteria in some population take tyrosine and make a good component, and in other people take tyrosine and make a bad component?
Right.
And so this is where is the idea, when we're discussing before, is the idea to totally kill a group of bacteria, or to try to understand which combination can push towards good synthesis? So right now we are trying to understand that, or we are trying to understand if there are other ways that we could work on that. For instance, creating, at the SRC, we are really for interdisciplinary science. So be to create what we can call chemical traps, where you can create maybe gels, right, in our idea, that are going to recognize the bad metabolite and attack it, so that then you can, has no power to go into the brain and affect the brain cells.
Mm-hmm.
So there are multiple components of this equation, so that you can say, okay, stop eating, because you were saying fat, we can say, okay, stop eating palm oil. Great, it works.
Yeah, but how do you stop eating amino acids? It's in every protein, plant protein, animal protein, everything.
Precisely. And this is why I want to say we have to consider a word of caution. So it's true that the elimination diet works in many cases, right? People who have, for instance, as we were discussing before, for MS, there have been several elimination diets, right? No dairy, no gluten in some cases, or low fat, Mediterranean diet. But in this case, what do you say? You say, don't eat tyrosine? You cannot do that because you need it for a lot of positive things. So we need to find an approach that can work together with diet.
Well, something you said before the show off the air just popped into my head. So I take free-form essential amino acids in my protein drink before I go to the gym. If we extrapolate the information we know about acellular carbohydrates, this is grain, anything that's turned into a flour is called acellular. And we know that acellular carbohydrates are digested and metabolized in the gut, which means it feeds the microbes. In fact, one of the shows we did about SIBO quite a long time ago postulated that they could come up with a medical grade food that would bypass the small intestinal bacteria and be digested further down, and then they would die off. And I said, that's just food. Like, in other words, if you eat a steak, the microbes in your gut may get a little taste of it, but it's not until further down where it's truly broken down and metabolized. So you said earlier there seems to be a link between processed food and flare-ups of multiple sclerosis. Maybe the answer is to eat real food.
Absolutely. This is no question. To eat real food is one of the first recommendations, right? And now, especially with the Multiple Sclerosis Society, there is a lot of emphasis on this. Real food, hopefully without a lot of additives, simple real food that you cook, and hopefully that it is organic. Same situation is with the fish. To get
Thank
fish.
you. Wait. I gotta commend you. I've had lots of scientists on this show, and when I ask them about organic, they go, well, organic, and it doesn't really matter. And how can it not matter? Because now you're eating chemicals on one and hopefully not on the other. So thank you for acknowledging organic. Thank you.
But I think that there is a lot that is, okay, going back to the concept of the microbiota, right? A lot of these besides the processed food, vegetables that are grown in the presence of a lot of pesticides and are grown in non-traditional agricultural procedures, the soil tends to lose the type of microbes that's beneficial. It turns the food that's being grown in this type of soil, that it is altered in terms of soil microbiota, also becomes less rich of vitamin and minerals. And as such, it does have an impact in multiple ways, not only because you are ingesting pesticides, but also because you are ingesting food that it is less nutritious in terms of components.
So now we have to talk about a specific herbicide, and that is glyphosate. So glyphosate, Roundup, we have genetically modified crops that are designed to allow farmers to spray glyphosate indiscriminately on the entire crop and only kill the weeds because the crops have been genetically modified to withstand. And there's a lot of evidence that glyphosate is a lot more dangerous than Monsanto or anybody ever let on. But one of the things that it does is it disrupts the soil's microbiome, and that's how it kills the weeds, by disrupting the shikimate pathway. And we always thought, well, humans don't have a shikimate pathway. No, but the microbiome in their gut does. So this would be something worth your groups taking a look at. Is there a chance that this chemical herbicide is predisposing people to this phenomenon in their gut, where we have all these rogue microbes that are turning things that should be good into things that are bad? It's just an idea.
I think, I think that there are already groups, for instance, at the SRC, there are already environmental groups that are studying the differences in soil microbiota in rural environment versus city-like environment in different states of the country. And so you can also see what we call human intervention, right? Human intervention every time you actually add the products to the environment and how the soil changes in terms of composition and how this alters the entire ecosystem. And the humans are part of natural ecosystem. So there is a lot that needs to be done. And unfortunately, we cannot study everything, right? And there are specific people that are addressing different kind of questions. So we will stay focused for now on the neurotoxicity of this metabolite and try to really understand how to best modulate them.
I think what we're going to do is we're going to take our last commercial break. And when we come back, that's what I want to ask you. What can people do that we know will work? And, like the palm oil, I never knew that. There's palm oil in everything today. It's like, who knew? That's just the ceramide story. But then when you look at the amino acid story, like, oh, my God, I can't eat anything now, So let's talk about that on the other side of the break. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay, sit tight. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio. Remember those rectangular toaster pastries you used to love when you were a kid? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today. If you've listened to this show for any length of time, you know that I have struggled to give up coffee for years. Coffee has destroyed my gut and it's impaired my health. Well, I haven't had coffee in months thanks to a product called Magic Mind. Magic Mind is the first nootropic blend I actually feel working. One shot and I'm good all day long. My memory is crystal clear and I'm able to function and have great focus without coffee or caffeine for that matter. If you want to try a product that really works, if you're like me and you want to give up coffee forever, or you just need something occasionally that will help you lift the brain fog, Magic Mind is your product. I promise you that this product you will feel when you use it. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Magic Mind, all one word, and use the code SHR for a whopping 20% off your first order. One of the best health hacks there is using an infrared sauna with regularity. But infrared saunas are expensive, you have to assemble them, and they require a great deal of space in your home to dedicate to one. But that's all about to change because I negotiated an amazing deal with Helix, the infrared sauna blanket company, so that every one of my listeners can take advantage of an infrared sauna in their home, apartment, condo, wherever you live. Take it with you. Right now, you can get an infrared sauna blanket for just $469, and if you want, you can break it into 4 interest-free installment payments as well. There is no longer an excuse not to have and use an infrared sauna. Go to shrnetwork.biz/helix. That's HEALIX. Use code SHR. Get this ridiculously inexpensive price now and 45-day risk-free. If you don't like it, send it back. But I promise you, you will love it, and you will never want to be without it ever again. Plant medicine has become all the rage for mental optimization. Now there's an ancient plant medicine rapidly growing in popularity that experts believe might just be the alcohol of the future. It's called True Kava. Kava is a natural food-grade elixir that has been used for over 3,000 years by South Pacific Islanders as safe, non-addictive alternative to drugs and alcohol. By naturally boosting the brain's main feel-good chemicals, dopamine, serotonin, and GABA, Kava provides you with both increased relaxation and mental clarity at the same time. True Kava is a new form of stabilized full-spectrum traditional Kava that is third-party lab tested for quality and safety. Go to shrnetwork.biz/True Kava, and that's TRUKAVA, all one word, and use code SHR for 25% off today.
Dogs should be powered by fat and protein, not carbs. That's why Visionary Pet makes low-carb, ketogenic dog food for dogs of all breeds and life stages. From kibble to freeze-dried and even low-carb treats, all Visionary Pet recipes are very low-carb, ketogenic, and made with 100% real meat protein. Shop now and use code SHR for 20% off your first order today. Your dog deserves the lifelong benefits of optimal nutrition. Make the switch to Visionary and see why smart dogs eat low carb.
Over 30 million men experience a form of erectile dysfunction. Meet Eddie, a device designed to help men strengthen and maintain their erections. Based on 2021 clinical trials, over 95% of men experience positive results wearing Eddie instead of relying on costly pills and experiencing side effects. I checked out Eddie by Giddy at shrnetwork.biz/Eddie. Eddie offers free sizes and the product works. Sign up for a subscription and save $20 off your first device with promo code SUPER20. That's SUPER20. A 60-day guarantee can't be beat. Treat ED with Eddie. Eddie by Giddy at shrnetwork.biz/Eddie.
This is the Superhuman Channel, where we use oxygen for the power of good.
Welcome back. A little bit later in the show, we're going to talk about how to reverse the sun damage in your skin. If you're like me, I used to look like an old shoe, but I've been using Restoracell, and boy, my skin does look better. There's no doubt about it. We're talking right now with Dr. Patricia Kosacha, and we're talking about, right now we're going to talk about diet and multiple sclerosis and what can be done in view of this new research. So is there anything that we can say with great certainty for people who maybe they don't have MS yet, but they're worried about getting it, their mom had it, or maybe they have MS now? Are there any standards that we can apply?
So I think the best thing to do, as we were mentioning, there is not one diet that fits all, right? So I think that that's the most important criterion. I think everybody would want one answer. Does this work? Does this doesn't work? I think it requires some self-study. And I think I may have mentioned there is that the National Multiple Sclerosis Society has a website where a group of panelists, I'm part of this wellness group, has reviewed all the current evidence on the different type of diets. And the results have been remarkable. There are a number of diets that have shown to reduce fatigue, some more than others, to improve, for instance, mental sharpness and metrics of quality of life. What seems to be, in general, there is the low-fat diet or the swank diet that has been shown effective, for instance, in reducing weight and also improve fatigue. And then there are a number of other considerations, like the elimination diets that we were mentioning before, to eliminate grain and trying to substitute with lean meat. This is more the Paleolithic diet, the diet by Terry Walls. Other types of diets are, for instance, a Mediterranean diet, but modified to reduce the number of grains and carbs and to increase the level of vegetables, good oil, right? So good oils like the one that comes from olive oil or the one that comes from nuts. And this is something, and fish, especially fatty fish, salmon, tuna, making sure it's not loaded with mercury, and together with herrings or sardines, anchovies. These are all good type of foods.
Alige. I love it.
Yes. And that's what I wanted to mention. It's important, though, that one considers, I'm seeing more and more when you go to the store, if a fish is farm-raised or wild-caught. And many times you need to watch, because if you have seen some of these farms, they really look like these huge bathtubs filled with salmons that are fed sometimes with antibiotics and hormones. You may want to guarantee that the type of fish that you get is of high quality in order to avoid what we were discussing before, to put more noxious substances into your body.
Right.
So research well, high quality product, and define what's best for you, allowing yourself to spend some time to really see what works with your lifestyle, with your body, with your own microbiome.
Right. Is it possible to radioisotope free-form amino acids, feed them to a person, and watch where they go and which microbes are turning those amino acids into bad stuff versus good stuff?
To label, is it possible to label and to do it? I have to think about it, of how it could be done and what to do. But it's possible to trace specific substances. The question is, to really try to understand where do they go. I do not know if it's needed to do something like that, or if perhaps there could be a different type of design that one could envision.
Now, did you say earlier? Maybe I missed that. That there are people out there literally mapping the microbiome of people with multiple sclerosis at this point in time.
Yes, we have had a lot of discussion about that. We have a lot of publications on this, right? There have been several groups, and that always is my effort. And this is where we are realizing that there is a lot of noise. In other words, you could have different type of combination of bacteria that generate specific toxic metabolite. So the correlation, and this is why the experiment with the tracing could be hard. It's not one-to-one, right?
Right.
And it's important to understand a little bit more how it goes, right? The other thing that I wanted to mention is that many times in studies related to diet, we rely on what we call self-reporting, right? Yeah. So you have a diary and you write. And what we really need are more objective metrics of assumption content, right?
Like a metabolic lab where they stay there and we feed them and we know, because people always underreport what they perceive to be bad behavior and overreport what they perceive to be good behavior. And that's the reality of diaries. Yeah.
For instance, but this is very important because, for instance, salt, there has been a lot of discussion about high salt being toxic, being really neurotoxic. And one of the studies, the initial study, the 2014 studies, they actually detected what was self-reported with the level of salt detected in urine. So you need to get some kind of what we call markers or biomarkers to follow and make sure that what the subject is telling he or she is eating actually reflects on the type of measurement that we can perform on the blood.
Right. I want to just, so Craig Hollander, who's a big fan of the show, made this comment. I just want you to be able to have an opinion on it. He said, autopsies show that people with ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease have higher levels of polyunsaturated fatty acids in their brain from permeability due to inflammation. Now, I don't know what that means and how it affects. Does that relate to our discussion here today?
Perhaps he's trying to mention that there may be also other conditions with altered permeability of the blood-brain barrier, which I appreciate. Thank you for. I was not aware of these studies. I will check it, but thank you for bringing it to my attention.
So should people who think they have a predisposition to MS or even other neurological disorders have their doctor checking for blood levels of ceramides?
There has been an interesting, you're bringing up an interesting discussion. There was a report last year from a scientist in Australia that just wrote a commentary saying, is ceramide the cholesterol, the new cholesterol for the brain?
Right.
And that's right now, it's a big question because ceramide can come in a number of ways, depending on the number of carbon atoms. So if you have C16 versus C18, C22, C24, and depending on the length of this tail, not every ceramide is equal. So you can have ceramide that are non-toxic and ceramide that are toxic. So it becomes critical to really understand what do ceramides do. So for instance, for us, we have studied C24, C22, C16, and C18. And different lengths ceramide do different things. Some can enter in the cell, go directly into the nucleus, and affect DNA methylation, thereby affecting epigenetic regulation of gene expression, what we were discussing before. There is straight through. Other ceramides can go into the mitochondria of the cells, these energy producing the cells, and literally create holes so that the mitochondria can no longer produce energy. And so it's very important also in this case to study the length of the ceramide, if there are double bonds or if it is a saturated chain. I appreciate that people really want answers right away, but in order to be rigorous, we have to do science, and every time when you discover, you refine the hypothesis more and more. So there is an interest, but not for an indiscriminate measurement of any ceramide, but the specific ceramide that we can consider to be neurotoxic.
Now, these ceramides sound strangely familiar, like short-chain fatty acids that we associate with the production of butyrate in the gut. Is coconut oil considered a ceramide?
No, short chain fatty acid are short, so typically they can have 3-5 carbon chains, versus the ceramide that are present, for example, in the brain are C22, C24, which means 22 or 24 carbons or 16 carbons.
Right.
Okay. And so the short fatty acids are very different from the ceramide, have a different molecular composition, and they do affect very differently the metabolism of the cell.
Okay. This is fascinating, and I can't wait for your next study. Now I'm sitting here like, okay, it's like when a series on TV ends and you have to wait till next year for the next season. I have to wait now. This is fascinating. I think the work that you're doing is amazing, because this like we said earlier in the show, this will allow people to at least take some control, experiment with diet, experiment with different things. There's another culprit that no one's talking about, and it's coffee. In the United States, we drink so much more coffee than even in Italy. I mean, Italy, you have a demi-tasse, you have a shot of espresso, you talk, you enjoy yourself. Here, it's this big, 4 shots of espresso and steamed milk, and they drink 2 of those a day. Everybody drinks coffee, everybody. And it's associated with cerebral blood flow, autoregulation. I mean, it's associated with, it destroys your gut. I found this firsthand from drinking so much coffee for so long. I wonder if coffee plays into this discussion someday. I'm just curious. It's going to be interesting.
I don't know. So far, we haven't evaluated the intake of caffeine. And there is, we follow the science, right? So right. Whenever the data are coming, we are following. I didn't think of studying tyrosine, right? Or studying tryptophan. We are analyzing the data, and then the data that is more stringent and passes all this level of controls, is reproduced, etc., are the one that we study. If caffeine will be one of these components, we will study. But at the moment, I don't have any specific idea of why to focus on one versus the other right now.
Right. Listen, thank you for being here. Thank you for being patient with me and all my questions. And I can't wait to have you back on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carl. Thank you again.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and hopefully we're going to be back. I see Debbi Barber here in the green room, but I don't see Dr. Suzanne Turner. And so I may have to reach out to Dr. Turner here real quick and see where she is for this next discussion. But stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio. Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High-quality, pasture-raised, great-tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose-to-tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/whiteoak and use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 10% 10% off your entire first order. If you'd like a shortcut to better sleep, more energy, and calmer, more stable moods, then you should make sure you're supplementing with magnesium daily. Let me tell you why. About 75% of people are magnesium deficient. This deficiency can lead to higher levels of anxiety, irritability, trouble sleeping, and low energy. It can even contribute to foot and leg cramps while you sleep. Magnesium Breakthrough by Bioptimizers is the single best magnesium supplement in the world. Simply take 2 capsules before you go to bed, and you'll be amazed by the improvements in your mood and energy levels and how much more rested you feel when you wake up. I take Magnesium Breakthrough every night, and I sleep better because I use it. Go to magbreakthrough.com/SHR and use the code SHR10 during checkout to save 10% off and get free shipping. Check it out.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
If you've listened to Superhuman Radio for any length of time, you know I'm a big proponent of peptides. One of my favorites is GHK-Cu, the blue copper peptide. It has the ability to repair and regenerate more youthful expression of skin cells, reversing the signs of aging. Restore Cell's Stem Cell Awakening Serum, along with their other products, contains potent formulations of blue copper peptides and only the highest quality organic ingredients. Superhuman Radio listeners can now save 25% site-wide. Go to shrnetwork.biz/blue and use the code SHR25. Remodel your skin today. Over 30 million men experience a form of erectile dysfunction. Meet Eddie, a device designed to help men strengthen and maintain their erections. Based on 2021 clinical trials, over 95% of men experience positive results wearing Eddie instead of relying on costly pills and experiencing side effects. I checked out Eddie by Giddy at shrnetwork.biz/Eddie. Eddie offers free resizes and the product works. Sign up for a subscription and save $20 off your first device with promo code SUPER20. That's SUPER20. A 60-day guarantee can't be beat. Treat ED with Eddie. Eddie by Giddy at shrnetwork.biz/Eddie. I would easily say that I am the hugest proponent you will ever meet to doing anything that will improve the quality of my sleep. And that's because sleep is linked to just about every metabolic disorder we see in our population today. One of the easiest things you can do to improve the quality of your sleep is to get a pillow that can be shaped into the exact form factor that allows you to get your best night's sleep. And that is MyPillow. I've been sleeping with MyPillow for a few years now, and I can tell you that when I have to travel and stay in hotels, I don't get a good night's sleep because I don't have MyPillow with me. Right now, you can save up to 60% off of everything offered to improve the quality of your sleep at shrnetwork.biz/MyPillow when you use the code SHR. Or you can call toll-free 800-889-4938. And remember to use code SHR to save up to 60% off of everything at their website.
This is the Superhuman Channel. Evolution just got kicked up a notch.
Hey, welcome back.
Hey.
Everybody's here in time, and we have a really good topic to talk about. So first of all, everybody, you can't see it right now with that. Let's see. My skin looks so much better since I've been using Restore Cell. And you know what? I don't know why I didn't start sooner. The truth is, it's so easy to use. I use it at night before bed. I use it in the morning after I shower. And everybody that I know tells me that my skin looks great. What am I doing? My cousin, Christine Colangelo, just texted me. And she said she was watching one of my shows and my skin looks amazing. She just texted me night before last. And she says, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it. And I texted her back and I told her about Restore Cell. So I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't. How are you, Dr. Suzanne Turner?
I'm great, Carl. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Yes. And Deb Barber, how are you?
I'm great. And I do think your skin looks so much better than the first show.
It's a world of difference. It's like all the little lines are gone because the skin is plumper. And so as the skin plumped up, all the little lines are gone. You know, these are going to take Botox and maybe some sheetrock screws. I'm not sure. That's going to be a dramatic change for me. And I don't know if people would recognize me if I didn't have. I'll never forget the first time I met Elisa's stepdad. I was sitting there talking to him, and I had my head down because he was up higher than me. And I was looking up at him, and he said to me, "Go like this." And I did it. He goes, I was just trying to figure out if those wrinkles were in your forehead no matter what you did. It was fun. But anyway, so we have a perplexing situation in today's day and age. The dermatologists tell us to stay out of the sun. They tell us to slather these microparticles of titanium all over our skin, which have now been shown in research to show up in the blood virtually immediately. And we're supposed to be afraid of the sun, but the sun is part of our evolutionary journey, and it's good for us. However, now in this day and age, no one wants to have skin like mine. Everybody wants to look like they've never smiled. You know, they've never been in the sun. I think a good tan is a wonderful thing. I think it almost conveys health, but it does damage the skin. So what are people to do, Dr. Turner?
So I'm a big fan. I've always been really, really pale. So my skin has always been super pale until I started learning about peptides. And of course, the two things I tell people to do if you're traveling, especially coming up with spring break coming up, the two things I tell people to do is to use melanotan and to use GHKCU. And the reason why we do that, the amazing thing for me, just my personal testimony about melanotan, every single day before your trip, you're setting your skin in a place. I used to have to slather on sunscreen every 2 hours while I was out in the sun, or probably every hour. And now I can put out sunscreen one time. I go out in the sun. I don't burn. I can actually have fun. I can play in the water. So I use the melanotan for that. But this research with GHKCU, especially with irradiated skin, and maybe radiation in general, we're sort of learning more, and that research is being done right now. But at least with irradiated skin, that damage occurs to irradiated skin when you're out in the sun. The GHKCU initiates the repair process faster. So we know that in fibroblasts, which are the stemish sort of cells in our skin, that when they're treated with GHKCU, they take on a more youthful, more stem cell-like shape, this cuboidal, very straight-sided shape, instead of this kind of flattened out, more aged cell shape. Mm-hmm. And these are more youthful, even if they're exposed to radiation. They're able to double more, just like the other unradiated cells were able to. So I use GHKCU as a repair, as opposed to as a sunscreen per se, and as a protection. It's a protection in a way that it allows your cells to go through DNA repair, as opposed to a sunscreen. So right. I still use sunscreen when I go out in the sun, especially if I'm going down to the panhandle of Florida. Because of the damaging rays, I'm not generally exposed to sun, but I definitely use GHKCU when I know I'm going to be exposed to radiation. Because of that exposure, I also use it when I'm being exposed to any radiation. So for me, that means when I'm on an airplane traveling for speaking engagements or whatever, all those things, I'm using GHKCU as a protective, because of the research that is available on the protection and the DNA damage repair that occurs with GHKCU.
How about you, Deb? Do you have the same experience?
I do.
Did you have any sun damage before you started to use the topical GHK?
I did, because I'm so fair. I definitely had sun damage, and it is so much better. I've been using it now for 2 years, twice a day, and I put it on my arms and, upper thighs and knees and other places, but it has made such a difference. And I wear it underneath the sunscreen. Every time I go out, I put the GHKCU Restoracell first.
On first, and then you put the sunscreen on.
Absolutely.
Debbie, that picture of you from when you were younger until now, like when you had those two pictures up with that younger picture of you,
yes.
You look so much younger now.
Oh, thank you. I actually was surprised, and because again, 10 years. This was 10 years.
Right.
And my skin looks better now than 10 years ago from a dedicated use of Restoracell.
The interesting thing about melanotan 2 was it was invented by Arizona State University specifically for this reason, to pre-treat your skin before going out in the sun. And what is the scale? The O'Brien scale? It's an Irish name that they use for the scale that of how light or dark a person is. Do you know what I'm talking about, Dr. Suzanne?
I do. I forget.
Yeah. So they created both melanotan 1 and 2, and 2 is the one that really is more effective. So because they knew that when someone was sunlight naive, they've been in the house all winter long, and then we're going to Mexico on vacation. They lay in the sun for a week, and bam, they destroy their skin so quickly because your skin hasn't developed the tolerance yet. So you can inject melanotan 2, like you said, every day, usually about a week and a half, 2 weeks before you hit the beach. And you already look tan when you get there. You're like, wow, this is amazing. I'm already tan. But guess what? It doesn't damage the skin as much then. It's really fascinating.
And you get the, it's actually the Fitzpatrick scale.
Fitzpatrick
scale. Yeah.
O'Brien scale. It's like, I couldn't think of it. Yeah. Yeah.
I tell people about melanotan. It's the go out in the sun and not get sunburned, anti-inflammatory, and improve your libido peptide. So it's the perfect
vacation
peptide. But again, I always stack that with GHKCU because of the benefits of decreasing the inflammation with the melanotan and improving DNA repair with GHKCU.
Now, Deb, I have a question for you. What's the difference between the serum and the moisturizer?
The serum has the greatest concentration of GHKCU, 500 mg. It has kelp and hyaluronic acid, a couple of other very helpful ingredients, but it is the stronger of the three. We also have the eye cream.
Right.
So if you did not use anything, I would say use the serum.
Right.
But then I have so many people that are in love with the moisturizer because it has natural oils combined with the GHKCU. So we have avocado oil, sweet almond oil, cuckoo nut oil from Hawaii. And those really, people love the feel of that after they put the serum on, or sometimes just use the moisturizer. So it's different ingredients.
I follow the instructions. We had your friend who is a professional esthetician on the show last time. And she said heavy follows light. In other words, the light stuff first, then the heavier stuff, and then the heavy. And I've been following that direction. I have. And
twice a day.
Yeah, I do. I do it right after the shower in the morning, and then I do it again before bed. And you know what's really cool? This is going to sound stupid, but Elisa goes into the bathroom at night before bed, and she washes her face, and she puts something on, and she fixes this, and she prepares her face for sleep. Moisturizes it, and now I do it with her.
I love it.
So one night I actually missed. I was so tired. I said, I'm not going to put it on. I'll do it in the morning. And she said to me, where are you? I said, why aren't you in here putting your cream on? I said, I'm just too tired tonight. But it's become like a thing that we both do now. So it gives you more time with your partner to do something.
Absolutely. We have so many men that are using the products, and I love that. More and more of people using the products are men, and I love that.
I had Mike O'Hearn on this show a couple years ago, and Mike looks like a movie star. He's not only built like Hercules, but he's really handsome. He's the California boy kind of thing going on. And I even asked him during the show, I says, Mike, do you do stuff for your face? He goes, oh, yeah, of course. And like he said it like so matter of factly, I have a lot of friends now that I'm doing this, I'm starting to notice that I have friends, and a lot of them are very well off, very well healed. And I look at them and I go, man, their faces look great. And I realize, they must take care of their faces. They must do this stuff. Like guys don't shout it from the rooftop. Women will get together and they'll talk about this. Oh my God, what are you using on your face? And guys, we just like, hey, get me a beer, and that's it. But I feel like more and more guys in the know are doing stuff to take care of their faces so they look young longer.
And I think part of that's because we're doing so many things in general to make them healthier longer, right? 65 used to be old, and it's not old anymore.
I know.
I was 65 last year.
I'm close. I'm coming up behind you. So I did a great show just a little while ago, Dr. Turner. You have to listen to with Dr. Patricia Kosacha from the City University of New York school system, and they did some really groundbreaking work on identifying bad actor microbes in the gut that lead to multiple sclerosis.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I knew you'd like it. You got to listen to it. It's really fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is a great product. And the guys who are listening to the show need to get with the program. We have an amazing deal here at Superhuman Radio. If you want to give this a try, it's 25% off. And I'm going to tell you something. I've seen the stuff that Elisa has bought in the past. Some of that stuff is stupid expensive. This stuff is not only already reasonably priced for 3 different items that you get, but then they give us 25% off. And this is a true story. We went downtown here in Louisville to the Omni Hotel for kind of a staycation. And Elisa was going to go get a spa service. So I got one too. And I didn't feel like getting a massage. I said, I'll go and get a facial. And the girl couldn't believe, first of all, she said to me, your skin looks amazing. Like usually they want to sell you something. They say, oh, your skin looks terrible. You need something. I said, really? I said, I've only been using this stuff for about a month now. I told her all about it. I swear, I think she's going to go to the website if she hasn't already and get some. This stuff is amazing. Go to shrnetwork.biz/blue and use the code SHR25 for 25% off. Here's what I'll promise you guys out there if you give this a try. It won't take long. It won't take but a week or two. And you'll look in the mirror and you go, man, my skin is glowing. It looks great. And that's the first thing people see. They if I have a jacket on, they don't see my round shoulders and, they don't see none of that stuff, but they see your mug first. And why not lead with a good looking mug in this day and age? You won't be disappointed. The ladies, I don't have to tell. I know we have women in the audience already that have emailed me and said, I've been using it for 2 weeks and it's amazing. So we need to get the guys on track with it. And those of you who are sun worshipers like me, you need to use this too, because you can actually reverse the sun damage. That's a big one, because you go to the dermatologist and tell you wear sunscreen all the time, even when you sleep, because you can never reverse that sun damage. Well, that's not true. They don't know about peptides. So what else do we have to discuss? Dr. Suzanne, you just spoke at A4M, didn't you?
Yeah, it was great. We had a great time.
What did you talk about?
Good crowd. Had a good crowd. I talked about my favorite topic of intestinal health, moving on from inflammation to intestines. Did a lot of biochemistry. I think some of the people were a little bit overwhelmed, but that's okay. We had lots of great questions. It was a good interactive talk. We had a great time.
You got to ask people when you halfway through, is this a lot of this stuff overwhelming? And the people who go, yeah, say, well, elevate. You know what I mean? Come on, get your dictionary out, look up some words, learn something. For Christ.
I'm so excited about it that I think my excitement is infectious. So I hope that's the case.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Well, that's what we have to talk about today. If you want to reverse the sun damage on your skin, all you need is a GHKCU, and the best place to get it is from Restoracell. I use all 3 of these products every night, except I skipped one night. I'm not going to lie, I did. I was tired. But I will not stop using them either. I'm going to tell you something right now, because my face looks better than it's looked in a very long time. Mm-hmm. Again, shrnetwork.biz/blue, and use the code SHR25 for 25% off all 3 items. You will get the serum, you will get the moisturizer, and you will get the under eye cream, which I use the under eye cream under my eyes, but I also use it on my eyebrows, because Deb told me last time that it'll actually help my eyebrows grow better.
And eyelashes. You may not want your eyelashes to grow, but I've had so many women write me, I didn't realize this would help my eyelashes grow. So it's like a bonus. In fact, this product, it offers a bonus. Everything I learn about it, because I am learning as I've used it. I'm finding things. I'm finding it helps pain. And Dr. Suzanne, you might talk about that, because I'd shared that, this knee, the knees are an area I've really worked on with this because crepey skin. And my knee pain is so much better. And Dr. Turner's like, well, that could be the GHKCU. And I'm like, another bonus? Is that not correct, Dr. Turner?
It is. It is. Yep, that you get pain relief with using it topically. It's harder to get topically than when you're using it systemically, but some people who use it topically will get a systemic effect, especially as much as you're using it.
I am pouring it on.
Well, at least localized, right? Is it like an analgesic?
Right.
Is it an analgesic, Doc?
It's more because of its anti-inflammatory benefits. It's more because of how it works for that. So you're getting, kind of like putting it's certainly way better than a topical Motrin or like a Voltaren gel, but it's giving you the anti-inflammatory benefits locally. We use it for a bone repair, systemically for bone repair and for our osteoarthritis. So it's got that benefit when you're using it systemically.
Amazing. Check it out, folks. It really works. If you want a skin product that really works, that also is like priced like something you'll buy at Walgreens. I mean, because they have a lot of cosmetics at Walgreens, and not something that you'll buy at the. Do you need to take out a loan for this today, sir? This stuff is amazing. It's priced right, and it really works, and you'll notice changes in your skin within 2 weeks. I guarantee it. Thanks for being here today, Dr. Suzanne.
Good to see you both.
Thanks for being here, Deb.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. And that's it for today. We have a great show planned for tomorrow, but if I was a good host, I would know what it is. Thanks to Elisa Profumo, who makes me look smart. Between her and Natalie, I just show up. That's all I do. So my life is wonderful. All right, look, we'll see you tomorrow with more Superhuman Radio. Don't forget, share today's show, because you never know whose life you're going to save. See you tomorrow.